Hello everyone, welcome to AWS Tutorials. In AWS Tutorials, we provide workshops and exercises to learn about AWS services. Today, we are going to talk about Amazon Personalize, which is one of the AWS AI services. We have been running this AWS AI programming series for quite some time, and this is part 7 of that series. So, what exactly is Amazon Personalize? So, in very simple terms, Amazon Personalize is a AI service which can be used to provide customized recommendation about your users or the customers. So, take an example like if your customers have been doing shopping on your shopping from certain place or certain website. Or from your say e-commerce site, and based on their shopping history, if you want to get some recommendation about what customers would prefer to buy, then yeah, you can use Amazon Personalize for that. Similarly, take example like if some user or customer has been watching movies or some kind of serials episodes, and based on the history of their movie watch, if you want to give some recommendation about what movie they will prefer to like watch, um, yeah, you can give you can give recommendations like that. So basically, it is a service which can be used to give really a customized recommendation based on the consumption behavior or consumption history of the customer for a particular commodity, whether it's it's a movie or certain entertainment things or certain purchase behavior in the retail. The way this service works is that you have to provide some kind of historical data for this service to this service, so that this service can use that historical data to build a model, and then that model you can deploy, and then that deployed model then can be called through a personalized API to get recommendation about a particular customer and user. So I'm going to go through each of these building blocks in detail, but in very simple terms, you can use your own data, which will be more of historical data for the customer or user for which you want to make the recommendation, and then you can use that historical data to build your own model using Amazon Personalized Framework, and then deploy that as a solution, which then can be called upon using programming APIs to fetch the personalized recommendation or customized recommendation for the customer or the user. And when you are building all these things, you really don't need to don't need to be a data scientist. All you need to have is historical data, which you can use for creating the model, and then you can use simple to use Amazon Personalized Framework to build such model and deploy it. So let's go through some of the details of the Amazon Personalize. So let's understand the building blocks, and it's very simple and straightforward service. So first building block is data set. So if you're trying to build your trying to use Amazon Personalize, then you need to have some data set which represents the historical behavior of the customer. So it could be like historical behavior of the customer purchase, or historical behavior of the customers movie watch, and based on that, actually, you can build a solution. And building a solution is like building is like training a model. So your data set is a training data set, and then based on that training data set, you train your model, which is like building a solution. And then you create campaign, and basically creating campaign is like deploying a solution. Okay, so you deploy a solution, and that is called campaign, and then you can make call to this campaign using Personalize API to fetch recommendations about a user or a customer. So basically, three-step process. You need to have a data which you have to configure your data set. Then you train your model, which is called creating a solution. Then you deploy your solution, which is called creating a campaign, and then simply make call to the campaign to generate the recommendation. So these are the three major building blocks. So let's go through each of these building blocks in a little more detail. So when you're talking about a data set, this data set needs to have certain characteristics. So for instance, your data has to be in the CSV format. You should have at least 1,000 records. So you need certain minimum amount of data so that it can build a model which can be used for recommendation. So you need to have at least 1,000 records. And then suppose these records are for creating recommendations for the user. So you should have at least 25 unique such users. So your data should be spread across 25 such users for which you want to create the recommendation. And then for each user, you should have at least 2 interactions, at least 2 records per user. So this is the kind of data distribution you need. 1,000 records, 25 unique users, and at least 2 interactions each user. And if you have this kind of data, then such data can be used for the training purposes. So this is an example of data I'm showing over here. So for instance, here is a user who has been historically using this item, and this is a timestamp for the usage. And now this item could be anything. This item could be watching a movie watched, or it could be a thing purchased, say on Amazon.com. It could be anything, right? So what exactly you're trying to say that you have got a user for which you want to make recommendation, you have item, which is the recommendation you want to make, and then it is a timestamp. And you can see this is how this data is in a CSV format. And then this data, then you can use to build your model. So how can you provide this data? There are basically 2 ways you can provide this data. And Amazon Personalize is very interesting in the sense that it provides you some APIs to actually stream data in. So for instance, if suppose you have a website and people are coming and purchasing their things from the website, and you want to stream the data in for the such recommendation analytics purposes, then you can create your events, record your events as they created. Okay. Similarly, if people are booking movies through some booking site, and then that is also you're capturing your data, and you can use this Personalize API to record such data. That's one way of capturing the data. And the other way could be is that you use some historical data. So suppose you say, you know what, I already have the CSV file somewhere, right? And then you can upload this CSV file into your S3 bucket and simply use it. So keep in mind, your data could either be like a bulk of data you want to upload to S3 bucket, or you can also record your data as that created wherever you are, you're like in case of movie through the booking system, and in case of purchasing through your purchasing channels. So that was about data set. Now next one is the solution. And as I mentioned earlier, when you say solution, it's basically you're training a model. So in the previous step, you had training data being ready, which is used to create the model. Now you are training a model. When you train a model, actually you create a solution. And to be very precise, you create a solution version. Because generally when you train the model, you don't train the model just once. You train the model, use the model, then retrain the model because you have got now more data. And as you get more data, you want to train the model again and again, because then your model matures again and again. So basically, you can create multiple versions of the solution. So you can keep training your model, and each time you train a model, you create a new solution version. So basically, solution version is like a particular training you have done, a particular model training you have done with a set of data. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Now, when you're training this model, or you're creating the solution version with certain training data set, as we said as the step one in the building block, what exactly it needs. So of course it needs your training data, but along with that, it also uses something called a recipe. So when you're trying to train your solution, or train a model, it needs a recipe, and a recipe is a predefined recipe, and you can say a recipe is like an algorithm. So, and in fact, it's a set of algorithms. It's not a single algorithm, but it's a set of algorithms which create a recipe and which can be used to train your model against a training data. And recipe could be of various types. So, and it is predefined into Amazon Personalize. So, one recipe, for instance, is called user personalization, which is more, this recipe you use if you want to give recommendation for the user for for their certain historical uses, like watching a movie or buying certain things. So if you want to give a personalized recommendation about a user, then you use user personalization as a recipe, and this recipe has a set of algorithms to help you train the model based on your training data. Another one is called personalized ranking, which gives you basically a prediction about the user interest, but that is a ranked prediction. So they can say, okay, this is we believe that this will be the top interest for the user, then second top, and then third top, and fourth top interest for the user. So it really provides a ranked interest label prediction about the user. That's called personalized ranking. Another recipe is called related items, which tells you like it gives you recommendations about similarities. So, for instance, if the person is watching this movie, then it is highly recommended or predicted that person will also watch this kind of movie. Or if the person is buying this thing, then it is very probable that person will buy these other similar things. So if you want to give some recommendation about a related item, then yeah, you can use this related items as a recipe. So when you're trying to build your solution or train your model, you have to use training data, and then you have to choose one of the three recipes depending on what the use case is for you. And then you simply go and build your model, which is nothing but a solution version. So once you have like passed through first two steps, which is you importing your training data, making it ready, then you build a solution, which is training a model. Then what? Then you actually deploy the solution, because now your model has been trained, your solution version has been created. Now you want to use it to get a recommendation. So you deploy your solution, and when you deploy a solution, it is called a campaign. So you can say a deployed solution is a campaign. So when you try to create a campaign, it will tell you, okay, fine, tell me which solution version should I use to deploy create the campaign, and all campaign does is that it simply deploys the solution. So since you train the model so that you can make an API call to the model to get recommendations about your users or the customers. So in order to do that, you need to create a campaign, and that you do. Then so you do that, and then when you do so, it deploys a certain solution version. And with this, actually, your model is ready. Yeah, your solution is ready. Now all you need to do is simply make a API call to this campaign and get recommendation about your users. So when you have got a campaign, you can use campaign in two ways. One is in Amazon Personalize. There is a test campaign form where you can provide your user ID or customer ID, and then your any kind of filter you want to put, and then you can get recommendation. And generally, you use this interface if you have completed the three steps of the building block, like you have imported your data, you have created your solution version, you have deployed your solution as a campaign, and then you want to test it whether it's working or not, or giving right kind of result or not. Then you simply use this interface as a part of Amazon Personalize to test your campaign. But once you have done the testing, then you want to use it in production. And in that case, you'll probably build some application which will make API call to the campaign to get a personalized recommendation about the user or the customer. And there you use this customized personalized API in your application, and then use a programming language of your choice, like say Python or C# or Java, and then in that programming language simply make this API call and get recommendation about your users. So that's how you integrate the campaign as a part of your applications to get a recommendation about your users or the customer. So that's how you consume your deployed model using a campaign. Now, keeping all those things in mind, now what we are going to do is that we are going to build a scenario. And what we are going to build here is that we have a sample data which talks about users history of movie watched, and then we are going to use that. We are going to put the data into S3 bucket. Then we'll use Amazon Personalize, and we create the three building blocks. So we'll start with creating data set, to create a solution version, to create a campaign, and then we'll use this Amazon Personalize API and make call from a Python code to get recommendation about the user. So this is a scenario you are going to build today. So in order to build this scenario, we have created a workshop, and this workshop is uploaded to our website, aws-dojo.com. And we have provided a description, URL of this workshop in the description box below, so you can use it from there. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of this workshop and explain what we are doing to implement this scenario. But again, this URL is in the description box, and you can use this URL to access the workshop free of cost at any time, and implement the scenario by your own to learn about Amazon Personalize. So let me jump to the workshop now. So here is the workshop. It's uploaded to our website, aws-dojo.com. I have already talked about the scenario here, so without wasting any more time, I want to start the workshop. So when you start the workshop, actually it gives you certain steps which you need to perform, certain tasks you have to perform. All you have to do is perform these tasks one by one, and you can complete the whole scenario. So starting with first one, which is prerequisite, which tells that you need to have an AWS account. And if you don't have an AWS account, then you might want to use this link to create one trial account. Next, we prepare the data. So let me walk you through the data we are going to use. So in this case, we are going to use, I showed you this one in the presentation as well, but I'm going to use this as a data. So basically, it is a historical data about a user who has watched movie in certain time stamp. So user ID presents actually the user which has watched the movie. Item ID presents the movie which the user has watched, and timestamp present the timestamp when this user has watched the movie. So generally, when you're trying to go for this kind of personalized data, it needs to have this kind of structure where you will have a user ID kind of field which says, okay, I want to give recommendation about this user through Personalize. Item is you want to give recommendation about item ID, and then this timestamp is more of gives a historical perspective to the whole data, so that when you try to train your model, training model can use this information to build a model which can give a kind of recommendation about the user. So you have this kind of data, and this data actually is already provided through the link over here. Actually, in fact, this data I got from Amazon.com Personalize site only. So what I have done is that I have uploaded that data after some cleansing. So what you do in this case, that you go to AWS console. Create, I'm using the island region over here, create this dojo personalized record as a bucket, and simply upload the file over there. So once you have done that, you need to configure access to the S3 bucket. So the way Personalize work, that your Amazon Personalize will use a role to access your S3 bucket, but then your S3 bucket where the data has been stored also needs to have a bucket level policy bucket level policy to provide access to the data. And this is a bucket level policy we are creating, where we are allowing Amazon Personalize to be able to get object and list bucket under this bucket we created where the data has been stored. So you simply go and define this bucket policy in your bucket, and you save it. So this is more to give access to the S3 bucket from the Personalize. Now we move on to Personalize configuration. So we go to Personalize and say we want to create a new data set, because the first step is to import the data. So first you create a data set group. So one data set group can have multiple data, and generally, because it might happen that you have got like more than one information about the customer, like his customer movie watch history, customer's purchase history, and you might want to create a data set group. So each one is a data set, and you can put that into one group so that you can build a solution which can give a recommendation about various past behavior of the user. So we create a data set group, and then in that we go and create a data set. And then you create a schema, and this schema should match to the schema of the data you provided. So cutting a bit over here, but when you go and do this workshop yourself, you'll find that actually it provides, you have to give the JSON schema for these three fields. So you will have like a user ID, string type, item ID, string type, timestamp, and then again string type in this case. And then once you do that, actually it says, okay, I have provided the schema. So the schema now knows that how to read the data in your sample data file. Then you create an import and say, okay, at this point in time, okay, which role you want to use to access the S3 bucket or authorize access to the S3 bucket, and say I want to create a new role. And then it says, okay, tell me the bucket where you have data, and again we provide those personalized records. So here we are giving this role permission to be able to talk to the S3 bucket. So this role gets created and it gets assigned to the personalized data group we are creating over here. And then we also provide the data location. So this is the data. This is the place where we uploaded data. We provide a data location. So this is with this our data import configuration is ready, whose primary job is to import data, training data, so that it can be used to train the model. And simply say I want to finish it, and then what happens that it will start importing data, which can take quite some time. And you wait till the your import data upload data set is active. That means your data is now fully imported. Now after that you go and create a solution. So in between you can see there is a way you can ingest data. So again I told you that your training data can be created in two ways. One, you can put into an S3 bucket, and secondly you can live create your data, and you use this method if you want to live create your data, which I'm not covering today in the workshop. So next is that my data is ready. Now I want to create a solution. So you click on creating a solution, and then in that case it says, okay, let's start the creation of the solution. This is pretty straightforward. All it asks for is that, okay, this is the Dojo solution, and then this is my recipe. So remember there are three types of predefined recipe available. Since here we are looking for providing recommendations for movie for a particular user, so we are looking for more of a AWS user personalization as a recipe. And we select that as a recipe, and we simply say, okay, now let's finish the solution. And it will start creating the solution, which is more of a, or to be precise, start creating a solution version, and which is more of, creating a model using the training data you just uploaded in the previous step. So once your solution is ready, it will enable this create new campaign button. And as I mentioned earlier, that when you want to deploy a particular solution version for the users, you create a campaign. So next step is to go and create the campaign. So that's the next step. So what you do here is that you go to this launch campaign section and say, I want to create a new campaign. And all it will ask for, okay, fair enough. So give a campaign name, which solution you want to use, and which solution version you want to use. So as I mentioned earlier, that when you deploy a solution, a model, it is a solution version, and you can have you can deploy it multiple times because you train your model multiple times, and each time you train it, you deploy it, because generally it is more mature than the previous model, because you have got now more data set to train the model. So when you select a solution, you also select a version of the solution you want to deploy. So you provide the version of the solution, and after that you simply say, I want to deploy it. And it takes some time before the campaign is created. So the campaign creation finishes, and when campaign creation finishes, you know that your solution version has been deployed, and now you can make API call to this campaign to give recommendation about the user. Meanwhile, make note of the campaign ARN, as you need campaign ARN in order to do programming with the campaign. So as I mentioned that you can also test your campaign from the Amazon Personalize. So you can see here that once your campaign is ready, it will make this test campaign page visible, where you can provide your user ID. So you're saying, I want to get a recommendation for this user, number one. And then you can also provide certain filters here. And then say, I want to get recommendation, and you can see here that it is providing recommendation about the item or the movies with score attached. So score tells you which is more favorable recommendation versus a least favorable recommendation. And it is generally sorted from higher score to the lower score. So you can see that your campaign has been deployed, and it is giving a recommendation. So now we need to call this campaign through a Python-based client in this case, to see how we can integrate this campaign as a part of the application to get recommendation about the users or the customer. So first we create a development environment. So we are going to use a Cloud9 environment for development. So I created a Cloud9 environment with the name Dojo environment. I said, okay, I want your T2 micro machine and Ubuntu operating system, and then we simply create the environment. Once the environment has been created, we have to make this environment ready so that it can make call using Python Boto 3 SDK. So first we update the repositories or resources in the environment. Then we check the Python version, which is 3.6.9, which is good. And then we install Python Boto 3 so that your Python Boto 3 SDK is deployed. And generally, it is a very good practice to get to update your Boto core and Boto 3 so that you get latest SDK upgrade for your Boto and Boto core deployment. So you run these two commands, and with this, your machine is ready, your Cloud9 environment is ready to do Python programming with Amazon Personalize API. So next step is to go and build a client. And in order to build the client, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. A couple of lines of code, guys, and not more than that. So we created a new file called say dozo client.py. And in this client, yeah, these are the 4 lines of code we are doing. So we are saying, okay, I'm creating this personalized runtime client. And personalized runtime client is used to actually talk to the campaign to get recommendation. And then we are saying, I want to get recommendation. Here is my campaign URL. Here is my user ID, which is user for which you want campaign. And here is my number of results limitation. And again, I mean, you can not have this filter, or you can say, I want to get top 10 recommendations only, not more than that. And then, yeah, you simply make call to this get recommendation method. And then, of course, this campaign URL, I put a placeholder here, but this you have to replace with the actual campaign URL you make note of in the previous step. And then, yeah, I get my campaign as items in the item list, where I can simply go yeah, and list down the item and the score attached with my recommendation, which gives you basically weightage of the recommendation. And you run this code, dozo client.python code, and you can see that it has provided me recommendations for this user ID 1, and these are the items it has recommended, and it is the score attached with my recommendation. So that very much, yeah, how the Python Code client works. And the next step is to clean up the resources so that you don't incur any cost post the workshop. So that was all about the workshop. Hope you like it, and if you like the workshop, please click on the like button. Please subscribe to my channel. I generally create 1 or 2 such workshop or exercises every week. And yeah, you can use those exercises and workshop to learn about AWS services. There are many other similar exercises and workshops which you can use to learn about AWS services. All these workshops and exercises are published to our website aws-dozo.com. So I recommend you explore them. If you have any feedback or comment or request for new content, you can always reach out to me either in the YouTube comments section, or you can also click on this contact us button and can provide me feedback over here. So always look forward to your feedback to improve the content and make more and more such videos and workshops and exercises. Okay, so I look forward to your feedback. In the meanwhile, yeah, stay safe and have a nice day. Bye bye.